When my mother said it, her voice was gentle. Practiced even. Let's take a break this Christmas, she said. Just this year. Without kids, we're tired. I didn't argue. I didn't ask clarifying questions. I didn't point out that my kids were old enough to entertain themselves, or that we'd offered to host, or that tired had been their explanation for a lot of things lately. I said, I understand. And I meant it in the way people mean things when they've learned that understanding is safer than insisting. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my living room longer than necessary. The tree was up, not fully decorated yet, just lights and a few ornaments the kids liked. It felt premature, suddenly, like I'd prepared for a version of the holiday that wasn't going to happen. Still, I adjusted, told the kids we'd do something smaller, different. They shrugged and went back to their games. Children are better at adapting when you don't teach them disappointment first. The days passed. Then, on the Saturday before Christmas, I opened my phone while waiting in line at the grocery store. It wasn't even something I went looking for. The photos were just there, posted casually. Bright, warm, unfiltered, my parents' living room full, people packed onto couches, coats piled by the door. A long table I recognized extended. Lauder caught mid-motion, children everywhere, young ones, unfamiliar ones, playing with wrapping paper sprawled on the rug. I zoomed in before I realized I was doing it. My sister's new boyfriend stood near the fireplace, arms slung around her shoulders. In the background, two boys, his nephews, I'd later learn, were opening gifts under my parents' tree. My stomach didn't drop. It went still. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't fatigue. It wasn't no kids. It was no us. I paid for my groceries and sat in the car without starting it. I watched the photo again, then the next one. Same room. Same house I'd been asked to stay away from. Same Christmas I'd been told needed to be quieter. I thought about the gift, the one I'd given my parents 2 weeks earlier. Not wrapped, not ceremonial. A transfer, discussed calmly over coffee. It'll help with the repairs, my dad had said. Take some pressure off. Or 12,300, a precise number because it had come from a specific place. A year-end bonus I hadn't spent yet. I told myself it was practical, that family supports family. That money moves where it's needed. I took a photo of the transfer confirmation, just the screen, no commentary. Then I opened my messages and sent it to my dad with one sentence. I don't think you need it anymore. I didn't add punctuation. I didn't explain. Then I put my phone face down and drove home. The waiting wasn't dramatic. I made dinner, helped with homework, watched a show I didn't care about while folding laundry. At 40 minutes exactly, the doorbell rang. I knew it was him before I opened the door. My dad stood there with his coat still on. No anger in his face. No smile either. Just something unsettled, like a man who had arrived without rehearsing. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. We didn't sit. He stayed near the door, hands in his pockets, like he wasn't sure how long he'd be allowed to stay. That message, he said. What did you mean by that? I didn't rush. I didn't soften my voice. I meant that if you have the energy to host a house full of people, I said, then you don't need my help this year. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Tried again. That wasn't, your mother didn't mean. I know what she meant, I said. She meant not a style. He looked past me into the house. The half-decorated tree, the quiet, the absence of chaos they'd claimed to need a break from. You could have called, he said. So could you? I replied. He shifted his weight. It just happened. People dropped by. Your sister brought children, I finished. I saw. Silence settled. Not explosive, just heavy enough to be unavoidable. The money, he said finally. We've already allocated it. I nodded. Then you should be fine. That was when something changed in his posture. Not rage, something closer to recalibration. You're punishing us, he said. I shook my head. I'm opting out, he frowned. Off what? Off paying to be excluded, I said. Off explaining myself when the truth is visible. Of being reasonable while everyone else pretends not to notice. He stared at the floor. When he looked back up, his voice was quieter. Your mother didn't think you'd mind, he said. That sentence landed harder than any insult could have. I minded, I said. I just didn't argue. We stood there like that for a moment longer. No apologies arrived. No justifications fully formed. I should go? He said eventually. Yes, I said. You should. He paused at the door. Christmas won't be the same. No, I agreed. It won't. After he left, I sat on the stairs and let myself feel it, not anger exactly, but the dull ache of clarity. They hadn't excluded us because it was easier. They'd excluded us because it was comfortable. Because I would understand. Because I always had. That night, I didn't call anyone. I didn't post anything. I finished decorating the tree with my kids, who argued over ornaments and laughed when the lights tangled. It wasn't the Christmas I'd imagined, but it was honest. And for the first time in a long while, that felt like enough, even if it meant some doors wouldn't open the same way again.